Hey, what's up, guys? Back here with another video. And this video, I'll be doing some kind of tutorial about figure drawing. And figure drawing, I feel, is something that's it's looked at in a very complicated way. At the end of the day, it's just how physics work on a specific group of shapes that are linked together, right? The human body is it's just a bunch of shapes that are connected together that move in a certain specific way, right? And so the human body is really it's got a center of gravity, and that center of gravity is usually somewhere around here. And then we're held up by legs, right? And one thing that people make the mistake of a lot when they draw the figure is messing up the legs a lot because the legs are pretty damn difficult to draw. So you got to be experienced and you got to understand how the joints work. And these are like the basic proportions of the human body. And when you draw it enough, you will remember them. So it really comes down to practice. So if you want to knock out like a figure like this is just like a really basic, this whoever this is just standing up, right? But the joints in the human body, they'll determine how the whole overall figure will be acting within a specific space. So let's say we want to draw a human figure and it's jumping or it's going to land, right? So we have to understand how gravity will be working on it. So we'll first, sometimes I see the tendency also that people start with the head when they draw the figure. You don't want to do that because when you draw the head, then it could end up looking very weird. And people tend to also draw heads just straight up like that. So imagine if you're drawing a figure where the head is going to have to be tilted and then you end up drawing the figure after you draw the head and it just becomes a mess. So you always want to start with the body first, kind of like with the hips too. So let's say we want to draw a figure that's jumping down that way. And so like they landed off here and they're going to be jumping down there. So that's the trajectory, right? So the body will kind of be going that way. Sometimes also depends on which leg they've lunged with. But let's just say they're coming straight down to make it simple. So that's just the shape of the chest. We'll have the chest that's kind of like facing that way. So like we kind of have the rib cage. You see that? And that's where the shoulders are going to attach. Then we'll draw the hips we'll imagine the spine, right? Say that's the top of the neck, right? And the spine goes through the back. It's kind of bending forward. So therefore the hips will be leaning forward a little bit. So let's say that's the hips and that's the body. The abs are kind of crunching there. And then we can have the hands and the limbs. So the legs are always bracing for impact or pushing off the floor. That's the function of the legs. They don't really have much function except to move us around, or unless you're kicking something, right? And the arms don't have much of a function except to make sure that we're balanced and to act as a tool to hold stuff, right? So that's really the function of the limbs. Legs are to support the body, arms create balance and they hold things. And then once they hold things, you also have to consider those things into balance. So if the character is holding a sword or something, you'll have to, that becomes part of the figure too. So you always have to imagine a figure as something that has to be balanced. So here we'll have the arms kind of balancing the figure while it jumps. So we'll have this arm kind of leaning back. So the shoulder kind of blocks off the view of the bicep and the tricep. So we'll just draw the forearm there and then the hand here. It's too loose, but that's okay. You could always polish it up when you're finished with the whole figure. But right now the figure, this is just like the early steps. And also you don't have to finish the arms. I mean, you shouldn't even be doing the hands at this stage. I should have just left it as the limbs and then kind of have like circles just there so you could come back and finish it. Because if I made a mistake and I want to go back, now I'll have to erase the whole hand, which I spent time on. Right, and now let's draw the legs here. So you kind of have the glutes and they kind of wrap around. So we'll have the bone here. It attaches like that. So it's kind of like this. Right? It's like the letter L. So we can kind of imagine it like that. and so we'll have the knee over here. So let's say this leg here is bracing for impact while it's lifting. So that's a thigh. And you kind of have that one glute that goes from here into like the bottom of the hips. So we'll have a leg here, and then the calves. And then this bone here, just like two of them. The shin bone goes down straight, and then there's that one behind it and attaches to the ankle. Let's have this leg a little bit higher, but the knee still faces forward. See how that knee, the knee will never go to the side unless the hip also turns to the side. So if you have this leg here, the knee always points the direction of the toes, right? Because if it doesn't, you'll tear up all the joints and the ligaments that are in your knee. So let's say that leg turned, and that's the knee, right? So if that's the ankle, see how the knee has to face the toes. Like, you know, in football, like sometimes when the players will turn too quick, their feet will be planted on the ground, the player turns, and then the knee doesn't turn with the foot, and it just blows out all the ligaments to get the LCL tear, ACL, MCL, that stuff tears up. And so that's why if you ever draw and whatever you're drawing, the knees and the toes don't match up, then it's probably going to be wrong. So let's say the knee over here, we could have the foot kind of pointing down, kind of like they're ready to land. And then this knee over here would be like that. So this figure I'm just drawing from imagination. And I don't recommend doing that if you're still learning. I'm just doing this for the sake of making the video short enough because I couldn't find the reference. So it's kind of like the figure jumping and their legs. You got to make sure that if you understand how the joints work, the figure won't look wrong. I mean, it could look a little sloppy, but it won't look structurally wrong. This looks structurally, in terms of the structure, it looks okay. And then in the end, we could draw the head. So let's say the character is looking up while they're landing or looking to the side. It doesn't matter. See, when you leave the head kind of for the last thing, you could make sure it's the right size for the figure. And then at the same time, you could make sure it's pointing in the right direction. So let's say the figure is landing down, right? So they'll probably be looking down. So that's the base of the skull. Now imagine the shape like kind of like that. And then that's the head. All right. So I'm going to use a kneaded eraser. One of these. Because if I use this one, it'll just erase it completely. I don't like erasing light. It's easier to do it with this. So this one I just roll up. Oh, crap. So now that this stage is over here and you kind of have the basic structure for whatever body you want to draw, you could just go in and fill everything in. Now remember also, like, perspective plays a role in this. So once you learn all these things together, it makes everything easier. Like when I'm drawing a figure, perspective plays a role in terms of how these shapes are going to look. Like here, since we are kind of looking at him from the top while he's jumping, this figure, the shape of the torso here follows the perspective and it kind of goes down that way. You know what I mean? Right? And then it begins to curve that way. And then so you'll see the bottom of the hips a little bit more. I hope my explanations are clear enough. Sometimes I feel like it's hard to explain certain things, especially when you're drawing it. And also remember when you're drawing figures to make sure that the muscles that should be tensing up are tensed and the ones that are relaxed should be relaxed. Since the arms are pointing away and the pectoral muscle, which is the chest muscle, they attach to like the upper part. So the pec connects from the chest and it attaches to the upper part of that bone in the arm. And so if the arms are away, the chest should be relaxed a bit. And so we should see this part of the chest more. And then underneath it, it's called the serratus muscles, which are like kind of like part of they're like the top of the obliques. And then since the the person's crunching forward with the hips, right? So they could brace down when they land. The abs should be crunched a bit. Obliques too. And now this shoulder should be pointing back, that muscle here, the delts. And then kind of have the arm here. That's a mess, but you could always clean it up later. See, we're changing that arm a bit as we go. Kind of have the forearm muscle here. Still a shadow. I'm gonna fix that up later, but for now, for the sake of the video, because I'm trying to get it less than 15 minutes, I just want to get the basic idea. Sometimes the shoulder can be a continuation of the chest, especially if the arm is in this kind of angle. See, you see how, like, what I mentioned about the hands before? Make sure you don't draw them right away, because you'll end up having to change them anyway. All right, now the knees. Now there's that muscle that kind of attaches to the groin, to the leg. And then this part of the leg tends to have more fat. All right. And then also the most difficult part about the legs, like this part of the ankles here, is the way, like this figure here is in the air. It's usually easier to draw people in the air than people standing sometimes, because the way that makes the wrists and the ankles, I mean the hands and feet look correct, is the wrists and the ankles. So here, if we were to just draw a hand on here without thinking about this area here, so this is the area of the hand that makes a picture of the hand look correct. So here we have the elbow, the forearm bones in there, and then the wrist will kind of be here, right? And so the thumb muscle, thumb bone will be coming out that way. So you see that? I'm gonna have to clear that up a little bit. Yeah, that kind of looks off. So let's have that wrist and palm part looking like that. Let's see what happens. Have that finger go up. Might close in on it. So that's the shoulder, chest, have the bicep going backwards. Kind of have the traps also, don't forget about them. So that will be the hand. The shape I'm drawing here is kind of like this. So that's the thumb bone here, attaches to the top of the wrist. Then you have that bone there for the pointer finger. And the wrist will kind of be attaching to it like that. Now I could have the hands kind of pointing up like that. And the thumb like here. Kind of like that. Not gonna lie, that looks kind of off, but I feel like with a good another like couple of minutes, I could fix it up. But that's the thing. The hardest part about the figures is really just figuring out the structure. And in this video, I hope it was clear enough how we kind of arrived to this structure here. But it's the way gravity acts on it. So yeah, hope you enjoyed something. Hope you learned something from this video. Well, actually, before I go, it's I should do another. I'll do another figure. Probably too lazy to edit it out, but let's do one up here. So for this one, I'll do one that's attached to the floor. So let's have a figure running forward. So here, I did the exact opposite of what I said to do with the other one, which is start with the head. But when people are running, their head tends to always point forward, right? It doesn't. You want the head to kind of remain in a forward-looking position where you're making sure you're looking in front of you. And when a person runs, their body kind of the hips and the shoulders will always point in different directions. So that will be the hips. I mean, the hips are here. They'll kind of be going like that. Shoulders will be going like that. So let's say that's the person's hand. That's the arm. That'll be a leg. Oh, we ran out of some space here. It's fine. So the most important thing when it comes to drawing a figure, in my opinion, I think it's you're supposed to understand how the movement works to make it look as realistic as possible. So with running, when you emphasize that turn in the body, it makes it look like the figure is actually moving forward, right? Let's say that's the hand here. And we'll have the leg here. So the anatomy is kind of off, but you get the point. I should have planned out this video more, but I'm pretty sure it's not too hard to understand. But yeah, just the next time you draw in a figure or something, just make sure you understand the movement that's going on, understand how the figure is landing on whatever environment it's on, or how it's standing or supporting itself. So for this figure here, we know that this leg is extending forward, straightening out. So the muscles of the leg will be they'll be contracting. So which means that the quad should look like the muscles are all bulging in it. So is the shin, because it's ready for impact, where the heel is about to touch the floor, or the sole of the foot, or however this person is running. When I run, I know I land with the whole foot just to reduce the impact on the knees, because I used to run a lot. So I found out the best way where I don't get knee pain or something is when I land with the whole foot, absorb all the impact with the whole foot. But this person here is gonna land with their heel, so it's bad for your knees, but who cares? So you got to show that the muscles are kind of bulging here. So see that? Now we have the hips here. We got the groin area. Also, since the abs on this side are going to be relaxed, the ones up here, because they're getting pulled forward, the abs on the other side are the ones doing all the what's it called? It's wherever, actually, no, I think it's the abs that are on this side that are pulling. Yeah, these ones, well, the whole abs should be engaged while the person is running. And it's always hard to draw the foreshortened arms, especially if they're going away. So that chest is relaxed. The chest should be relaxed while running. Let's make this running look as dynamic as possible, so we'll make that hand have a bit more. Looks like it's kind of letting go. All right, it's very loose, but also when you're drawing that foot in the back, make sure that the heel shows, right? Because when the heel shows, it kind of it shows off the shape of the foot more. It looks more recognizable. Remember, toes usually point the same direction as the knees. So this knee's pointing down. You want to make those toes point down. So that's a person running. Just make sure that hand stands out more. You want to create that feeling of atmosphere. And on that hand too. Put some shadow underneath the neck. All right. So that's a quick tutorial on how to draw the human figure. And I mean, there isn't much to it except practice. Really, just study the anatomy, study how people move. You know, be more conscious of how